Hello PRFS2 students, this is lesson 20. We're getting into the home stretch. Semester is on its way to being over. Today we're going to be discussing facilitating teamwork. And it's really important to know how to work in a team because teamwork is going to be a place of anywhere, or it's going to have a place in any place that you work in. No matter what job you're doing, you're always going to be working with others in some kind of a way. If you can think of a job where you don't have to work with anyone else, please pop it on the discussion board. I'd love to talk about it. So communication is a key skill here. So please ask yourself and think about this. Do I like understanding others, or do I just like getting my own opinion across? Do I prefer talking to listening? So the self-assessment exercise for today is on page 253. And again, ask yourself, do these answers make sense to you, or are you surprised by them? The skill concepts for today involve the difference between a group and a team, and it's my prediction that you found yourselves doing a lot more group work than you have teamwork in your time at BMH. But when you break into the workplace, you're going to be doing a lot more teamwork than group work. So a group is defined as two or more individuals who interact to share information and to make decisions to help each other perform within a given area of responsibility. But members of a group have no need to engage in collective work that requires joint efforts, so their performance is the average of every group member's individual contribution. A team, on the other hand, team members are committed to a common purpose, have a set of specific performance goals, and hold themselves mutually accountable for a team's results. Teams can produce positive synergy. The overall level of performance is greater than the sum of its individual parts. Groups, everybody tends to work at the same thing, whereas teams, everyone has their own roles and jobs to perform. So I want you to complete an exercise with these two definitions in mind. Have you ever worked in an actual team? If so, please explain how this was different from when you worked in a group. Please pause the video here and play it again when you've answered the question. So here are some of the characteristics of high-performing teams. They tend to have small sizes. 5 to 9 members is the best. And if you do have more members, you can break up into smaller sub-teams with sub-goals or sub-tasks. They also have complementary skills. A team requires members with different skill sets. So skills like technical expertise, problem-solving and decision-making skills, and interpersonal skills. And a good team has the right mix of these crucial skills. Teams also have a common purpose. Does the team have a meaningful purpose that everyone aspires to, everyone agrees on? This purpose is their vision. So remember the vision statements that you wrote. And it's a lot broader than any specific goal. Remember that visions are a lot broader than just small goals. Higher performing teams have common and meaningful purposes that provide direction, momentum, and commitment. After this, they've got specific goals. Successful teams translate their common purpose into specific, measurable, and realistic performance goals, because goals energize individuals as well as groups. They also have a common approach. So goals are the ends that teams strive to attain. And defining and agreeing upon a common approach ensures that the team is unified on the means of achieving those goals. I'd like you to just take a second to imagine a world in which Nelson Mandela and Donald Trump work together. They'd have very different approaches, and I don't think they would be a good team. Team members must contribute equally in sharing the workload and agree on who is to do what. They must determine schedules and stick to them. And conflicts must also be approached in a way that everyone agrees upon. Another characteristic of high-performing teams is that they are mutually accountable. Everyone is accountable to themselves and to the team. If somebody doesn't do their work, that's a problem. Everybody needs to pull their own weight so that the results are everyone's to share. Successful team members individually and jointly are accountable for the team's purpose, goal, and approach. And individual members understand what they're responsible for on their own and what they're responsible for together. Next, we're going to discuss obstacles to effective teamwork. And one of the first obstacles is a weak sense of direction. People aren't sure of what their purpose, what their goals, and what their approach is. These haven't been laid down in the initial meetings, and that's an important first step to teamwork. Second is infighting. Team members are more concerned with fighting or their own personal agendas than they are with achieving the common goal. And I've said this a couple of times before, you don't have to like everybody that you work with, but you do have to be able to come to some kind of common ground or common understanding in order to work together. The next obstacle I'm pretty sure you are all very familiar with, not necessarily from yourselves, but from other people in your group, shirking of responsibilities. Team members are not committed to the team, they give work away that they're supposed to do, or they blame others for personal errors. A good team member takes responsibility for their errors. Another obstacle is a lack of trust. Team members, if there is trust, team members believe in the integrity, character, and ability of one another. When trust is lacking, members are unable to depend on each other. So here, trust, integrity, telling the truth. I've pretty much mentioned it in every single class, so this gives you an idea of how important it is. Next is a critical skill gap. Sometimes team members cannot fill certain roles, and if you don't have all of these various skills in your team, you're not going to be successful. Members in turn won't communicate, conflicts are not resolved, and the team is indecisive. All of these are skill gaps. Another obstacle is lack of external support. Teams exist within a larger organization, and if they rely on this organization for resources, whether they're financial or other resources, if they can't get these, the team is less likely to thrive, to do well. So how to overcome these obstacles? And this comes from earlier in the class too. So the first step is to create clear goals. Everybody needs to know what they are going to achieve, and that the goals are worth their time. Next is to go for small wins. Identify and set small attainable goals that you can achieve as part of your bigger goal. As soon as you achieve these goals, the team's success is reinforced, and you might reward these small wins. Next is to build mutual trust. As we know, trust is fragile. It can take ages and ages to build, but it can take moments to destroy. So make sure that you keep a climate of trust. You are trustworthy, and that you explain all policies and decisions to team members, as well as providing accurate feedback. Another option is to appraise group and individual performances. So team members need to feel the glory when their team succeeds, and they also should share the blame when it fails. Individuals can be singled out for excellent performance or for when they need to develop on certain skills. And also, managers need to provide the necessary external support. So managers are the link between teams and upper management, so they have to ensure that their teams have the resources they need to accomplish their goals. Another thing that they can do is to offer team skills training. So effective teams require training early on. This is why so many companies send their employees on team building courses. Official training can address problems such as problem solving, communication, negotiation, conflict resolution. Luckily for you, we've already covered these topics for you, but you might need to still do team building within the various teams that you are in your workplace. And then finally, the last step is, if there are too many obstacles, is to change the team's membership. When everything else fails, if the team does not have synergy, rotate the membership. So team process facilitation, the first thing we're going to discuss is role behaviors. There's three main types of role behaviors in a team: task behaviors, maintenance behaviors, and personal behaviors. And you can guess which kind of behaviors these are. We've discussed these before. So first of all, communication patterns. Who talks and for how long? And this is part of team process facilitation. Who talks for how long? Who interrupts? What is the style of communication? Assertions, questions, what is the tone, and what gestures are being used? Observing these can give you information about who is the most influential, whether coalitions exist, etc. Decision-making procedures. Team success obviously depends on the nature of the task, the individuals involved, and a lot of other situational variables. But it's important to assess whether decisions are made democratically or if one member is swaying the rest of the group. Please take a moment to pause and look at Exhibit 1 on page 260. Next is process interventions. Observations about team processes can provide really important information about improving team performance. What works versus what doesn't. we must make sure that we look at the processes and how they are performing at regular intervals, so that we can improve them along the way. So please go through the steps of team development. They're known as forming, storming, norming, performing, and adjourning. Please go through these steps in your textbook. Next is an exercise. I'd like you to please write a paragraph explaining what you have been doing right and what you have been doing wrong with teamwork in your studies. Do you think that teamwork will change for you going forward, or do you think it will remain the same? So please pause the video here and come back when you are done answering this question. Next, please complete the concept quiz on page 262 of your textbook. Pause the video and come back when you're done. Now we have this behavioral checklist. Facilitating effective teamwork requires you to establish and get commitment to a common purpose, task behaviors, maintenance behaviors, discouraging personal behaviors that are ego-driven, process observation feedback, moderating communication stages, and facilitating transition through the 5 stages of teamwork. I'd like you to go through this practical exercise. So when I'm done reading the questions, you can pause the video and come back when you are done with this question. So although we are currently in lockdown, you're probably not getting into college too much. Depends on where we are in the lockdown stages now. But whether you're in lockdown or whether you are at college or back at work, please take note of all of the teams that you belong to in your household, at college, at work. Just think about the various teams in your life that you belong to. Once you've identified the teams that you work in, observe any teamwork that occurs and ask yourself whether this is teamwork or group work. So this teamwork could be anything. It could be household chores, could be relationship maintenance, could be anything that we've already discussed. So do the people that you live with, this is separate, so this is basically to do with your home group, do the people you live with function as a team or as a group? And how could the functioning improve in your household? And if you're able to, I really do encourage you to discuss these ideas with those around you. Alright, so in the next lesson we're going to look at valuing diversity. Before the next class, I want you to look around your neighborhood. How are your neighbors and others in your community different or the same to you? Although you might feel like you've got lots of different similarities, try to identify the differences between yourself and your community and think about how these differences might benefit everyone. Thanks everyone. I will see you in the next class.